Hello everyone and welcome back to another video in which we're doing episode 2 of our Godot tutorial series, making a character. So our first step is to like, share and subscribe. And once I've said that, let's begin. So first we have to open a Godot. So I've opened it here. And let's go to our scene which we had made last episode, our project, in which we had given a root node and a sprite. So I have deleted that sprite for now. So here in our root node, let's open our in our project. Let's open our game main scene, and here we have game main. So I have already deleted the sprite and the camera 2D because we don't need that. So in the last video, I also mentioned that in game development, we never put everything into one scene. We make separate scenes for each entity or for each thing. So to add a scene, just click on this plus sign here and add a scene. So our root node for this scene is not going to be a 2D scene. We're going to create a kinematic body 2D as our root node. Now, kinematic body 2D gives us access to many different types of functions. And these functions will come later into use. And I'm also going to explain a function later on. Now we see that there's an exclamatory warning here. So let's click on that and see. So it says that this node has no shape. That means we have not given a shape or a texture, nothing. So it can't collide or interact with other objects. So first of all, we have to add our texture. So let's add a sprite to this. Now in the sprite, we're just going to do what we did last time. We're going to drag this icon.png into the sprite, into the texture. So here we see our sprite. Now let's just center it here. And we also have, for it to collide, for our character to collide with stuff, we have to add a collision shape 2D. Let me add that right now. Collision shape 2D. So this collision shape 2D requires a shape. So let's give this shape of a square. Why I'm using a square is because my character here, my sprite here, is almost like a square. Now it depends. The shape of the collision shape 2D depends on how your texture is or how you want your character to be. Let me make this a new rectangle shape, and let's just drag it over to in the center of my sprite. So let's just make this a bit big. I'm doing this manually because I have to figure out how to transform it later. Yep. So there you go. Now this almost approximately fits my texture, but I'm not going to spend too much time on that. So now that we have created our kinematic body 2D, let's save it and name it as player. Now, if we go back to game main, we notice that we cannot see a player anymore. Now the reason for this is because we have two separate scenes. And this scene has the player, but this scene does not. Now remember that each scene is individual and does not affect or does not depend on any other scene. Now what if we wanted to add this scene into our main scene? Now to do this, an easy way to do this is just come into your hierarchy, which is here. I'm sorry, your files, and you see this player.tsc, and that means a scene which we have saved. So just click and drag and put it underneath this game main. And here we have a player. Another way to do it is, let me just delete that for a second. Yes. Another way to do it is click on game main and hover over here. Now beside our add node button, we'll see a chain. Now this is called the instance child scene icon. Let's click on this player to instance it. And now voila, we can see our player and our collision shape. So how to move a player? At this stage, we can't move a player. We just see a player just standing here not doing anything, as you can see. Now a simple way to move a player is by changing the direction according to our buttons. So first we have to map our buttons. So let's go to project settings, input map, and here we see all our inputs. Now you can add your own input by coming over here, giving the name of your input, let's say right key, and saying add. Now, I'm not going to do that because Godot has its default mapping. So that is UI right and UI up and UI down and UI left. So left is the left arrow key and right is the right arrow key. So let me just close that, and we're going to use that input map in our script. So to add a new script, to add a script, we just have to click on the node which we're adding the script to. So for this example, we're going to add a script to our kinematic body 2D. So to add a script, hover over here again and come over to this script plus icon. Click on it and change the template to default and name your script now. So I'm just going to name it player.gd. Now here you can see everything. So let me just close out that. And before we begin, we have to add some variables. Our first variable is going to be var direction. So the direction in which we're going. So our direction is going to be a vector 2. A vector 2. Now we also have to give our speed. We also have to mention our speed. So I'm just going to give var normal speed. So I'm just going to give it as 150 for now. We also have to give a variable for gravity, but let's go over that later. Now to move our sprite, we need to make a function. So var function physics process. We need to use a specific function given by Godot. The function physics process. I don't understand why I'm not seeing that. Oh, I've given a var. That's wrong. So function physics process. Now there is also a function called process, but we don't want to use that because process runs at a custom time, but physics process runs every second. So we're going to use physics process, and I advise you to do so too because it makes everything much more smoother. So now here in physics process, we're going to make a player move. Now how we do that is pretty simple. First, we have to give the direction.x. So we want our player to move on the x-axis, right or left. So now there are two axes, that is y and x in a 2D plane or a 2D scene. In 3D, there's a z-axis. So in our 2D plane, we have x and y. X is right and left, and y is up and down. So we want to move our character from right and left. So that is going to be our x. So our direction, which we have given here, which is a vector 2. Now vector 2 are a type of element in Godot that gives us the direction. So direction.x, that means our vector 2.x will be equal to input. So that means our input, what we're pressing. So we don't just want our character just keep on moving here and there even when not pressing our buttons. We want to move our character when we press the buttons. So to do that, we have to give a bracket input dot get action strength. Now, what get action strength essentially does is get action strength gives a strength of how much we're pressing the button or the joystick. Now, in many games, you might have seen that if you move the joystick a bit slowly, the character runs slowly. If you put it really fast, the character runs. And if you put it a bit slow, if you don't put it all the way, the joystick, you just put it a little bit, it'll walk. So that's what get action strength essentially does. It gets the strength of how much we're pressing the action. Now, this won't work on buttons, but it'll work on joystick. So use this and it'll be much smoother. So get action strength UI right, which I told you is our right button. So that we saw in our project settings, input map and UI right. That is our right button, right arrow key. Subtracted by input dot get action strength UI left. We're going to multiply all of this by our speed to move. That is our normal speed. Sorry, normal speed. There we go. Now let's save this and try to run it again. Well, I'm pressing the buttons, but it's not working. Why is that? Because this line of code doesn't move our character. As I mentioned before, I was going to go over through a function given by Kinematic Body 2D. That is, move and slide. Move and slide allows us to move the player where we want, to move its position. So move and slide direction. So we have to give the direction or the vector 2 for it to move. So we have to tell the function which place to move, which axis to move. So now direction here is x. So we want it to move in the x-axis. So now if I were to run the scene, you would see that I can move left to right. So that's it for this video, guys. And we're going to be going over animated sprites, and I'm going to show you my player which I've made. And also, I will also be going over how to jump and many other things in episode 3. So thanks for watching. Stay tuned for episode 3, and goodbye.